On July 28, 1986, a 25-year-old girl walked out of her London office on a bright Monday afternoon to show a stranger around a house. She never came back. The stranger had given only one name, Mr. Kipper. What happened inside that house, and where that young girl went, is a mystery that shook all of Britain. So let's go back to that day and find out exactly what happened. Suzy was born on May 3, 1961, in a town called Cheltenham in the English countryside. She grew up as the second of 4 children in a warm, ordinary family. Her father, Paul, was a solicitor, meaning he worked in law, and her mother, Diana, was a swimming instructor. From the time she was a little girl, Suzy had a personality that pulled people toward her like a magnet. She was cheerful, confident, and social, in the way that some people just naturally are, the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with a dozen new friends. Her parents described her later in life as bubbly and carefree, with a love for living that never really dimmed, even as she grew older. After she finished school, Suzy did not sit still and wait for life to come to her. She went out and grabbed it. She took a job working on a cruise ship as a beautician, which let her travel the world and see places that most people her age were only reading about in magazines. She collected experiences the way other people collect photographs, building a life that was already rich and full by the time she was in her early 20s. When she came back to England, she brought all that confidence and energy with her, and she turned it into a career in real estate. By 1986, she was working as an estate agent, which is basically a person who helps people buy and sell homes, for a company called Sturgis, located at 654 Fulham Road in West London. She was genuinely good at her job. Meeting strangers and making them feel comfortable was something she did naturally, without even trying. She could walk someone through a house, answer every question they had, and make the whole experience feel relaxed and easy. It was her gift, and it was also, sadly, the very thing that may have made her vulnerable to whatever happened on that Monday afternoon in the middle of summer. July 28, 1986 started the way 1,000 other workdays had started for Suzy. She arrived at the Sturgis office on Fulham Road, settled into her morning routine, and went about her work. The office was busy with the usual summer activity. People were viewing properties, making offers, asking questions about neighborhoods. Somewhere during the morning, Suzy opened her work diary and noted an appointment she had for that afternoon. She was scheduled to show a house at 37 Shorolds Road in Fulham at 12:45 in the afternoon. Next to the appointment, in her own handwriting, she had written the name of her client, a name that would go on to puzzle investigators for decades. She had written, Mr. Kipper. Just before 12:30 in the afternoon, Suzy picked up her things, said nothing unusual to anyone in the office, and walked out the door. She looked completely calm. She was not worried. She was not nervous. She had done this kind of appointment hundreds of times before, and as far as anyone could tell, this one seemed no different from any other. She was just a young woman going to show a house to a client on a warm summer afternoon in London. Witnesses who were near Shorolds Road that day would later tell police that they had seen a young woman matching Suzy's description standing outside the property. One witness described seeing her speaking with a dark-haired man near the address. The conversation, according to the witness, appeared tense. It looked almost like they were arguing. Then the witness saw Suzy get into a car with the man, and that was it. That was the last confirmed sighting of Suzy Lamplugh that anyone ever reported. She got into that car, and she simply vanished from the world. Back at the Sturgis office, the afternoon hours passed quietly and without alarm at first. Estate agents sometimes stayed out longer than expected when a client had many questions or wanted to see a property more than once, so nobody was immediately concerned when Suzy had not returned by mid-afternoon. But as the clock moved past 3 in the afternoon, and there was still no sign of her and no phone call from her, her manager started to feel that something was wrong. He tried to reach her but could not. He called her family, and her mother Diana told him that she had not heard from Suzy all day. That was when the worry turned into something sharper and more urgent. By evening, the police had been called. Officers began searching the area around Shorolds Road and the surrounding streets of Fulham. And then, late that night, they found something that made the whole situation feel far more frightening. Parked on a road called Stevenage Road, about 1.5 miles away from the property Suzy had gone to show, sat her white Ford Fiesta. The car was unlocked, the key was missing from the ignition, and resting in the side pocket of the door was Suzy's purse, with all her money still inside it, completely untouched. She had not taken her money with her. She had not taken her keys. She had not taken anything at all. Whatever happened to Suzy Lamplugh, it happened fast, and she never had the chance to prepare for it. Her parents drove to Stevenage Road that same night and walked up and down the dark street calling out her name, desperately hoping she would answer from somewhere nearby. The police searched alongside them, but there was nothing. Suzy was gone, and nobody could explain how or why or where. The investigation that followed was one of the largest missing persons searches in British history. But it was also full of mistakes that would cost investigators precious time. Because Suzy was first treated as a missing person rather than a victim of crime, police did not immediately look into known criminals in the area. The entire case was managed without computers. Every lead and every tip from the public was written down on paper index cards, and by the time everything was filed and sorted, investigators were dealing with a pile of roughly 26,000 cards. Officers even released a photo of Suzy to the public showing her with dark hair, but she had actually dyed her hair blonde just the Friday before she disappeared. It was a small mistake, but it meant that people searching for her were looking for the wrong version of her face. The name Mr. Kipper quickly became the beating heart of the whole investigation. Who was this man? Where did he come from? How had he contacted the Sturgis office to arrange the appointment? Police chased down every possible lead. At one point, a detective noticed something strange. If Mr. Kipper's first name was Dan, then the full name Dan Kipper would be an anagram of the word kidnapper. It was an eerie coincidence, but it did not lead anywhere useful. Investigators also looked into a mysterious black BMW with left-hand drive that witnesses had reported seeing near the area around the time of Suzy's disappearance. The car was eventually traced to a Belgian man, but that lead also went cold. Then something came to light that made the whole case feel even more disturbing. In the days leading up to July 28, a mystery man had sent a bunch of red roses to Suzy at her office. Nobody at Sturgis knew who had sent them. Suzy had not explained it. At the time, it had seemed like a sweet, harmless gesture, the kind of thing that happens in a busy office and gets forgotten by the end of the day. But now, looking back, it felt like a warning sign that everyone had missed. Somebody had been watching Suzy. Somebody had been thinking about her. And then, just a few days after those roses arrived, she was gone. As the investigation stretched on and the years began to pass, one name kept coming back to the surface again and again, a man named John Cannon. Cannon was a former car salesman from Bristol, with a deeply troubling history of violence toward women. He had already served a prison sentence for rape before Suzy disappeared, and investigators discovered a detail that sent chills through the entire case. Cannon had been released from Wormwood Scrubs prison on July 25, 1986, only 3 days before Suzy vanished. He had dark hair. He drove a black BMW, and when police compared his face to the composite sketch that witnesses had helped them create of the mysterious Mr. Kipper, the resemblance was striking enough to stop people in their tracks. Most haunting of all was a detail from Cannon's time behind bars. His fellow inmates had given him a nickname. They called him Kipper, partly because of the wide Kipper-style ties he liked to wear. When Cannon's own ex-girlfriend later spoke to police, she told them that he had once laughed and referred to himself as Mr. Kipper while the two of them were together. Forensic evidence eventually suggested that Suzy had been inside a car registered to Cannon around the time she disappeared. In 2002, police took the unusual step of publicly naming Cannon as their prime suspect in Suzy's disappearance. But naming someone as a suspect and actually charging them with a crime are two very different things. And the Crown Prosecution Service decided there was not enough solid evidence to put Cannon on trial for what happened to Suzy. Some investigators believed the truth was even more complicated than a random encounter with a dangerous man. There was a theory that Suzy and her attacker already knew each other, that the Mr. Kipper appointment was not with a stranger at all, but with someone Suzy had already met, possibly someone she had been seeing, or someone who had developed an obsession with her. The red roses, the reports from her family that she may have been followed in the weeks before she disappeared, and the way Cannon appeared to have planned the encounter all pointed toward the idea that whoever took Suzy had been thinking about it for a long time before he acted. This was not impulsive. This was calculated. And then there was the darkest possibility of all, that Mr. Kipper was someone completely unknown, a person who had called the Sturgis office, pretending to be a regular client, studied exactly how the office operated, and waited patiently for the right moment to get Suzy alone. The fact that her body has never been found, despite dozens of searches across fields and gardens and woodlands all over England, suggests that whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing and covered their tracks with terrifying skill. John Cannon died inside prison walls in 2024, having never confessed to anything related to Suzy's disappearance. He took whatever he knew with him, and the Metropolitan Police confirmed afterward that the investigation into Suzy's disappearance is still officially open. Suzy's brother Richard said, after Cannon's death, that the family would likely never get the closure they had spent nearly 4 decades waiting for. Her mother Diana who had worked tirelessly through the Suzy Lamplugh Trust to make the world safer for other women, passed away in 2011 without ever learning what happened to her daughter. Her father Paul died in 2022, equally without answers. The Suzy Lamplugh Trust, which her parents founded within weeks of her disappearance, still exists today and has helped millions of people across the United Kingdom by campaigning for stronger laws against stalking and by educating people about personal safety. It is one of the most lasting and meaningful things to come out of this tragedy. The idea that even in the middle of unbearable loss, a family found the strength to turn their pain into something that could protect others. Police have dug up fields in Worcestershire. They have searched the garden of a house once owned by Cannon's mother in Sutton Coldfield. They have combed through woodlands in Somerset. Every single search has ended the same way, with nothing found and more questions left behind than when they started. Suzy Lamplugh walked out of her office on an ordinary summer afternoon, and the world has been trying to find her ever since. A name in a diary, a car with an empty seat, a family that waited their whole lives for an answer that never came. Nearly 40 years on, we still do not know what really happened to her. And that is what makes this case one of the most haunting mysteries in British history. So here is the question I want to leave with you today. If John Cannon really was Mr. Kipper, and if police believed so strongly that he was responsible, then why was he never charged? And if he was not the one, then who was the man that Suzy got into that car with, and where did they go? Tell me what you think happened in the comments below, because I genuinely want to know. And if stories like this one matter to you, stories about real people who deserve to be remembered, then please subscribe and share this video, because Suzy Lamplugh was not just a case file. She was a person with a life full of love and laughter and plans for the future, and she deserved so much more than the ending she got.